the Hat didn't just flop, it got executed by Hollywood. Let's dive into this
improv-heavy environment of something like
So
Austin Powers, where nearly 40% of the dialogue was improvised, though it should have been easy to see that this was
7 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of...
is often remembered as one of the most bizarre releases of the early 2000s.
Live-action version of The Cat in the Hat
Is?
just wasn't a great idea.
This isn't Dr. Seuss. It's not even
pretty
close.
terrifying.
But the adaptation of Dr. Seuss's
What?
classic story wasn't just a nightmare for audiences. Cat in the Hat was a horror show
Uh-huh.
both on and off screen, and at the center
How is it a horror show on and off screen? I'm confused on how it was a horror show.
of the chaos was the actor who basically got blackmailed into putting on the infamous costume. In the
So you
year
got
2000, Universal Studios
weird this,
released the first
costume?
live-action Dr. Seuss
Yeah.
adaptation with How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and it was a hit. While the film wasn't exactly popular with critics, they managed to gross almost $350 million at the box
Yeah, the crazy part about the Grinch is you wouldn't be mad doing the Grinch, but forcing someone to be a cat in a hat is crazy.
office, and it quickly became cemented as a Christmas
Uh-huh.
classic. So naturally, the company was eager to adapt more of Seuss's work, and The Cat in the Hat was an easy pick. The casting process was set into motion. The cat was initially supposed to be played by Tim Allen. He was interested in the role and even
Well,
did some
what
early
happened?
stage preparation.
Why
But due to
Tim Allen
conflicting
didn't do it?
schedules with 2 other projects
Oh,
at the time,
that's
he
why.
ultimately
He
dropped
was
out.
working
That's
on
when the
other
name Mike
projects,
Myers came up.
at
But the
that
studio
time.
was
I can see
reluctant.
why.
Myers should have been a great pick. He was known for his background in
Alright,
playing roles
that
with
would definitely be a good pick.
cartoonish characteristics,
It would be
perfect for capturing the
definitely good
whimsy
pick
of a
if you
Dr.
pick him.
Seuss book. And it should have been a
Definitely.
strong
Like,
follow-up
it-
to Jim
definitely.
Carrey's iconic performance in The Grinch. But Mike was, to say the least, creatively conflicted at the time. In the late 90s, he had
Alright.
been working on a movie based on his popular Saturday Night Live character, Dieter.
Welcome to Sprocket. I'm your host, Dieter.
There was a deal with Universal, and they had already dumped
Uh-huh.
millions of dollars into funding it when Myers
Dang.
decided to back out. He thought it was going
Why?
to be unfilmable, claiming he could not, in good conscience, accept $20 million and cheat moviegoers who pay their hard-earned money for my work by making a movie with an
Damn!
unacceptable
That's
script.
cool
As a
beans.
result, Universal sued Myers
beans.
for breach of contract, and in response, he countersued the company. Eventually, they reached a
Why?
settlement, and as part of Myers' agreement,
What
he was
give you the
contractually
right to
obligated to
counsel
do
the
another
company?
movie for Universal and make up for that loss. That's when he was cast as the titular character of Cat in the Hat, which would end up being a huge mistake. He clearly did not want to be there. Maybe it was a lack of interest in the role.
Cause I don't get it, but if you kind of finish the thing, right? You know, why you still went ahead and did the film anyway if you didn't want to do it? That my theory or my thought on what your mindset was.
Or maybe he just wanted to spite the company. Whatever the case was, Myers would go on to make the set miserable for everyone. Actress Amy Hill, who played Mrs. Kwan,
Uh-huh.
described him as a diva, stating in an interview that he would rarely talk to any of the cast and crew, basically pretending they didn't exist. If he needed something communicated, he had
Wow.
information relayed through his assistants. She mentioned that he had someone on standby whose job
Uh-huh.
was to just hold a Tupperware of chocolate and deliver them to him whenever he wanted one. He gave his chocolate guy more attention than some of his co-stars. It was just a horrible
Dang, so you
nightmarish
gave the
experience.
chocolate
I
guy
don't think he
more
got to know
attention,
anybody.
talk
He'd just
to
be
him
with
more
his
than
people and walk
anybody.
away. He would reportedly
you
show
look
up
at them
late
like
to
they were
set and take
nothing.
ages to
Like
get
they
into
were just
costume and makeup,
there,
forcing
but
everyone to
wouldn't
wait
give
for
to you.
hours and delaying the schedule. When he finally did get to set, the actor micromanaged the entire production. They'd do a take, Mike would go look it over, talk to the director, and then do another take, over over and over again. He wasn't
Hold up
communicating
a
with the
minute.
cast, so they never really
So,
knew what he was
what
saying.
the?
All they did know was that director Bo Welch gave Myers very little pushback on this behavior, allowing him to constantly challenge the writers. Unfortunately, this was his first time directing a movie, so he was understandably intimidated by someone with Mike Myers' status. And when Myers demanded line changes and refused to shoot scenes, Welch felt he had to sit back.
Bro, you're doing way too much already. Like, you tell someone who in there but not always in there something that he need to do. Then y'all talking about as a uncut and look the way it's supposed to look. Retake it over and over. Like, why? What are you doing? I can see why the Cat in the Hat flopped. It should have been flopped a long time ago.
And let it happen. It was his
Like, the
way
movie
or
was
no
dope,
way. He was supposed
but
to be
after
playing a
hearing
beloved
what you're
character
doing,
from one of the most
it
iconic picture
definitely
books
should
of all
flop.
time, but the off-screen tension made it hard for his co-stars to see him that way. The movie's
Damn.
confusing tone stemmed
It
largely
it
from
do
Myers.
make it hard
Originally,
for
it had a more
anybody to see
kid-friendly
you
script,
in
but
the
Mike
way you
felt he
want
needed
them
to
to see you.
insert crude adult jokes, innuendos, and awkward one-liners that he thought better suited his comedy style.
Dirty hoe. Son of a
He was used to the loose, improv-heavy environment of something like
So
Austin
he
Powers, where nearly 40%
adult
of the
joke
dialogue was
fit
improvised,
his.
though it should have been easy to see that this wouldn't translate well
Where
into
are
a
we
colorful,
going
family-friendly
in
Dr.
here?
Seuss movie.
Or
He turned the
doing?
film into something unrecognizable from its original script, although he wasn't the only one to blame for the complicated environment. While this was Bo Welch's
the only one?
directorial debut, he was an experienced production designer, having worked on movies like Beetlejuice and Edward Scissorhands, which undeniably showed in the set design for Cat in the Hat. Rather than filming in an actual town or a traditional studio, they constructed an entire artificial neighborhood. Every aspect of it, from plants.
I didn't even notice. I thought they just been like in a studio and they like you green screen, or they did you like studio prop, or they build their own thing like how they do a Spider-Man and the Avenger and stuff like that in Iron Man. But I didn't know they actually literally constructed and built this all on their own. That's crazy.
To roads to houses was painted in an oversaturated style to achieve the cartoony, surreal vibe they were aiming for.
I think we shot one day on one set where there was something real. That was the grass. Otherwise, everything else was manufactured on the stages. We went everywhere.
The
We went,
grass was
even
the
the
only
trees.
thing that
were
was
fake.
real.
So
Everything
when
else was
design
handmade built.
is everywhere in a movie. It
There's
does
no
set a very
way
special
y'all
tone.
handmade
But this
built
came with a lot of
everything.
problems, maintenance being a huge one. As if the cost of building a neighborhood wasn't deep enough, any damage or weathering to the set required fixing and repainting, which not only cost more but further delayed production. The bright, unnatural colors demanded meticulous lighting to avoid glare. On top of that, the interior sets, like the house, were made to look warped and cartoonish, but they were extremely tight, leaving little room for the crew. Bright studio lights and small spaces made it a hot, claustrophobic environment. Everyone suffered, but Mike, being in a full bodysuit and face prosthetics, got irritated frequently and would have to go reset his costume during takes.
Being a good sport. What's that? You're being a good sport seems hard.
There were quite a few scenes that didn't make the final cut, and it was probably for the better. One of them featured Thing 1 and Thing 2 trying to delay the mom's arrival, and to do so, they chug a mountain of water bottles. When she gets to the neighborhood,
Alright, it's something fishy, but I can see why certain scenes don't make it into a program. I can see why certain scenes don't make it into the spotlight.
Thing 1 floods the streets with piss.
Flood? There's not a cloud in the sky.
Rockazaka, Labaroo, Rockazaka, Urko.
Through all the challenges behind the scenes, Universal still had enough confidence in the film's success to greenlight a video game alongside its release, and even planned on making a sequel. However, the movie hit theaters on November 21st, 2003, and it was immediately met with scathing reviews from critics and audiences alike.
If there's one thing I've learned from these two movies is that We don't want to see Jim Carrey as a Grinch, and we don't want to see Mike Myers as a cat.
It's hard to say who is less recognizable in The Cat in the Hat, Mike Myers or the actual Cat in the Hat. Let's hope this insult of a movie doesn't taint any child's ability to enjoy the original. Crude humor full of pop culture references. This not only yanks us out of the dreamlike on-screen world, but it makes the film painful to watch. But no one hated it more than Dr. Seuss's widow, Audrey Geisel. So much so that she went on to ban any future live-action Dr. Seuss adaptation on behalf of the Seuss estate. That's why there have only...
Damn. That why there's not a lot of live-action Dr. Seuss adaptation of the movie. Because knowing some cartoon and actual live movie always have like a live action film, but it's crazy.
An animated adaptation since. It's hard to put all the blame for its failure on one person. One of the biggest criticisms for the film was its inconsistent tone with too many adult jokes, and that was largely due to Mike Myers. Critics found his portrayal of the cat to be creepy and obnoxious as well, but its issues went much deeper than that. The unfocused direction, hyperactive pacing, and annoying slapstick humor all played a role in the movie's demise.
Actually see how they really made the Cat in the Hat set was insane. I didn't expect them to actually build the Cat in the Hat scene set like that. Second of all, hearing what the actor Mike Myers done as the Cat in the Hat, and then telling the new upcoming director how it is, then starting the program if they film is not the way it's supposed to be, or it's crazy to hear how the Cat in the Hat probably flopped or didn't flop. So like, subscribe, hit that post notification bell, and click one of these videos right here.